the EMI is something that we start the school year off with and we end the school year off with, so that students and teachers can see how that transition of the mindset changed from beginning a program to the very end.
Mm.
I think mindset is what everything is about. No matter what we do at life, I don't care if you're a chef, a web designer, you got to create a mindset.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of I Have Something to Say, where subject matter experts are unafraid and unapologetic about sharing their perspectives regarding issues that impact our lives. They speak up because basically they give a shit. So if you're tired of canned answers and want to finally hear real people cut through the BS and talk about real issues, this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Sami Jimen Marrero from Urbander, and behind our mixer is our producer, Chris Majoka from UdoU. Welcome, everyone, to this episode of I Have Something to Say. I am very excited about this conversation that I'm about to have with the Executive Director for the Southeast of NFTE, which is the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, Chris Brignolle. How are you, Chris? How are you?
I am doing well. I'm doing fabulous, actually, right? So I really appreciate you inviting me over to this amazing podcast, and I'm looking forward to today's conversation.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I had the good fortune of experiencing NFTE in more ways than one. First, as a judge, okay, to the youth that are exercising entrepreneurship, that are part of the NFTE network, right, for teaching entrepreneurship, and then also at the gala. And so let's just take it a step back, right?
Absolutely.
What is your mission for everyone that's watching and listening to us today?
So our mission, first, so NFTE's mission or Chris's mission?
Well, yeah. Okay, NFTE's mission, and then Chris's mission, because I know it's like on steroids, right? It's like the mission, but then on steroids. Go ahead.
It aligns very well. So NFTE's mission ultimately is to bring entrepreneurship curriculum into low resource communities to really enhance what students don't actually know, right? Because we were all kids, we only knew what we knew. At the end of the day, it's also about instilling the entrepreneurship ecosystem within their community, within their school, within their nonprofit organization they're part of. So their whole surrounding format, bringing entrepreneurship to the communities, is ultimately what our goal is. Utilizing school districts to be a huge part of that ecosystem, where we infuse entrepreneurship in the courses in schools, and then it flows back out into the community.
That's awesome. And it's about exposure, really.
Yes,
Right?
yes,
Because it's like you just mentioned,
absolutely.
you just don't know what you don't know, and that's even a pathway, for you as an adult, right? To really cultivate your skills and have an impact and build generational wealth and all those good things. And so, what's Chris's mission for NFTE?
Yeah, so I asked that because ultimately I've been part of NFTE now for what, going on 18 years, and ultimately I it resonated with me as a kid. I only had access but to so much, right? I love my
Mhm.
family to death, but I only knew what I knew at the time. So Chris's mission ultimately was to be able to make sure that every youth that we touch here in the Southeast region and at a global level has access to something new, that they're learning something new on a daily basis, whether it's through the NFTE curriculum or through the support and engagement opportunities we bring to the table through the NFTE program.
Yeah, that's great. And so I want to learn a little bit about how. How did you become involved, right? Because we know each other from way, way back,
Absolutely.
and I don't know. I like, we used to hang out with Michelle, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Who we love. And so then fast forward 2 decades later, I'm like, let me find out Chris grew up and
No more little
and
Chris.
that yes, and I mean, this is amazing, the level of impact that you're having in the next generation, right, of Americans and of youth in this country. And so how did you land on this path, you know, where you're really exercising your leadership in a way that transforms lives?
So let's rewind back a little bit then, right? So I'm 44 years young, right? And out of the 44 years, I've been residing 24 of those years here in the South Florida area. What landed me in South Florida was I lost my best friend. You know, it was near and dear to my heart. We woke up every day calling each other, what are we doing today? What's the next plan? What's the next move? His life was taken. And unfortunately, you know, the only thing I had left was his memory. And the longer I stood in Brooklyn, New York, the more I felt like I was going to go down this pathway of darkness. So I literally came to South Florida on vacation and never returned home. I came here with a little savings, didn't know what my next move was going to be. And I started volunteering for a nonprofit and then started working for a nonprofit called the YWCA of Greater Miami. And I participate in a program there called the Computer Clubhouse Network. And the Computer Clubhouse Network was about breaking the digital divide back then. And everything that we taught the kids had entrepreneurship embedded in it. Whether they knew it was happening or not, we had music studios, we had Adobe Photoshop, we had robotics, we have video production, you name it. By a lady by the name of Alice Horn, my former executive director here at NFTE, said, hey, I have this program. At the time it was called Kid Ventures, and I want you to be able to come and have your kids sell a product, but keep it simple. She said maybe coffee mugs, bookmarks, maybe, you know, gift card, something like that. I was like, no, we don't keep it simple. The sky's the limit with my kids' ideas. And they created t-shirts, and at that time it was the Gulf War. So we created about 50 t-shirts with different types of I want to call it energy on the shirt, right? Families and make them keep the faith that their loved ones are going to come back and return. So we go to this sales event with all these other kids from different programs. My kids had the t-shirts that was selling at $15 each. Everybody else had bookmarks and coffee mugs at $3, $2 a pop. Lo and behold, my students sold out their product first. Why? Because I had to put the thinking hats on, what was happening at the time, who's your target market and audience is going to be, and what type of product would you like to create. And then they created these t-shirts that were around something near and dear to many people's hearts, and they sold out before anybody did.
Wow.
You know, shout out to all the other business, the bookmarks, the coffee mugs. You know, they had few products, but our kids rose to the top based on doing their due diligence and research. So Alice said, Chris, you know what? I need you to come work for me. And I was like, well, I've been with the Y 6 years. They pretty much like adopted me when I came from New York. I can't leave them like this. And then she was just like, look, we got to figure this out. Long story short, I transitioned career paths, started working with Alice. She's like a second mom to me and I'm a mentor to this day. And we went through Kid Ventures, and it was a few months, or maybe a year. And then she says, Chris, I'm sorry to tell you, but I'm selling Kid Ventures to a program called Nifty, and you got to interview all over again. I was like, what? I got to interview. I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh, I think I'm going back to New York. I don't know if I'm going to get this job. Long story short, she was like, I just need you to be you. No one else but you. You have a story to tell. And that's what I've been doing ever since. And then I locked in the gig with Nifty and started out as a lead program associate, program manager, program director, manager, all these different type of titles along the way. And I was offered after Alice left to accept the executive director role. I said no. I said there's this young lady by the name of Janine Sloss that just started with us, and I think she's probably the new leader for this team. As much as I want to do that, I don't think I was ready to do that because I like to be on the ground with the teachers and students. A few years later after that, Janine says, Chris, are you ready for the executive director role? I said no again. And then when they opened up the position, that's when I said, you know what, I do want to apply. I
Yeah.
want to I want to give it a shot. What do I have to lose, right? I do a lot of this already, and the organization that I'm a part of, which is NFTE, the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, brought me through the process, and I accepted. And here I am today. It's been just about a year now.
Mm-hmm.
Not a full year as ED, but I started an interim executive director role around this time last year. And now I'm the active executive director for the NFTE Southeast region, where we serve 25,000 students and about 450 teachers.
That is beautiful. That is just so great. And it's so awesome how you were exploring the possibilities and then bumped into social impact and got hooked, right?
Absolutely.
To purpose. And
I
I
was
think
supposed to
it's
be
a
an interior
beautiful.
designer.
What was that?
I was supposed to be an interior designer.
Oh, really? So look
That's
at
what
what
I,
I mean.
that's what that was my passion. That was my passion.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to do. And then when I came to South Florida and saw kids that needed our support and help, and all I saw was me and them, I said, no, I have a different mission to fulfill. I got to do
That's
something.
awesome. That's fantastic. That's beautiful. And so, talk to me about the program, right? Like, what does it really entail, and how young is youth for
Oh,
Nifty?
oh man. So we recently started opening up our doors to fifth and sixth graders. I mean, we've
Oh,
been doing sixth
nice.
graders for a while, but fifth graders is something new that we started launching and exploring the opportunities with Broward County Public Schools. And
Nice.
um, you know, every age level needs
Mm,
entrepreneurship, right? I felt like when I was born with it and didn't know until now, right? That I'm
yeah.
44, that I was born with it, because we always have something that we either trading with a friend or saying, hey, you can have this, or maybe somebody's doing somebody's hair or sneaker cleaning, whatever it is. We didn't know we had it. It was just something that we did. And now, knowing what entrepreneurship is, I feel the importance that every kid needs it. But ultimately, Nifty, we starting at the fifth grade level. We've been exploring that option, but ideally for the past several years, it's been middle school through high school, and now we have post-secondary education curriculum that we offer adults. It's called Started Up.
Nice. And so, is this like an after school program, or is part of the regular school hours, right? Is it an elective? Like, what does that look like in terms of nuts and bolts?
So ideally, we are in school program. We do have programs in after school space and summer camp space with community based organizations. But ideally, is in school. We approach the school district, present our curriculum, and we do some research on what the needs and wants are for entrepreneurship at the district level. Once we identify those needs, and once we then have a conversation with the district to allow them to identify the services that we provide, and then they identify teachers, we train the teachers, and they bring back our curriculum into their classroom, whether it's a standalone course or an infused course. And what I mean by that is you have your typical business courses that it's a standalone course where our curriculum is paced out through the whole entire school year, and we also have
Mhm.
curriculum for semester-based courses. So that's how it's infused into the school system. So to answer your question, it's in both, primarily in school programming.
That's great. And so then I've seen it, right? It covers everything from branding, how to incorporate, how to do the research, how to do the P&Ls. I mean, it's pretty comprehensive. And I
Yeah,
only know this because I had the pleasure of being a judge in one of your competitions, in one of your nifty pitch competitions, right? And so
absolutely, in
tell,
Orlando.
tell, yeah, I loved it. We both loved it. Michelle and
Shout
I
out to
both.
Orange County Public Schools, by the way. Got to give them the shout out for that one.
Thank you. It was great. And just to see how dedicated, how thorough, how excited, and how determined, right?
Yes,
These young entrepreneurs were in the whole process, of pitching their businesses. It was just very moving, and some of these some of these kids, right? And then I don't want to say kids because they were so mature, right? Some of these young entrepreneurs, their ideas were like, I was like, oh my goodness, what a brilliant idea. Like, that with the right funding, and as soon as they continue, right, to push forward and to try to scale their ideas and find the right partners and supports and funding and collaborators, that's just going to take off. Any stories that you could share with us, success stories of young entrepreneurs that started with like seed, no money, but with a brilliant idea, and that now, because I mean Nifty's been around for decades, so then that now in adulthood they're reaping, right, the benefits of that original idea.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I have so many stories, right? But one of the the newest stories that we have to date that is near and dear to my heart is Jonathan Avadia with AxeLab. It's a gaming VR virtual gaming company. So when we met Jonathan, this was about maybe 13 years ago.
Mm.
It was at Miami Beach Senior High School. So one of the things that we do is not just a curriculum that we provide teachers, is an experience that we provide teachers, right? So with the Nifty experience, we find that it's key that they have a whole wraparound model around them as a teacher and the students for programming and the support. So we brought in a gentleman by the name of Craig Robbins. So you viewers out there, if you don't know who Craig Robbins is, then shame on you. He's the CEO of DACRA Realty here in South Florida, and he's responsible for designing the Art and Design District in Miami, South Beach, Lincoln Road area, if you will. Once again, look up Craig Robbins if you don't know who he is, so it can all come together. And shout out to his wife, Jackie Sulfur from Turnberry Associates as well. With that said and done, we brought Craig Robbins to Jonathan's classroom. Jonathan pitched his business idea called Love Puppy Love. So Jonathan says, I'm going to be the dog father instead of Hello Kitty. I'm going to be the dog father of the new t-shirt brand. Hello Kitty, we loved him, but here I come. And Jonathan did an amazing business with his t-shirts, all different dog simulated images. And this was before AI was a thing. So if AI was a thing then, Jonathan would have took his designs to a whole nother level. So that's a whole nother conversation on a different show with Sami. But Jonathan was pitching his idea. He won competitions, got some good feedback from Craig Robbins, and then Jonathan goes and says, "You know what? I'm graduating. Off to LA I go." And he launched another t-shirt company called The Good Life. He launched The Good Life. He had got some help from the BCBG brand and family, and they helped support him through his initiatives with his clothing company. Then Jonathan goes and says, "You know what? I'm tired of the clothing business. Let me get rid of this." And he leaves that and he departs. And he comes back to Miami to what? To be a real estate investor. He goes, "You know what? I want to dibble and dabble into the real estate market. Let me go to University of Miami and figure this out." He looked on his wall and he's seen the name Craig Robbins. And he's like, "Man, I want him to be my mentor." And Jonathan, was adamant about that. The professor says, "I'm not too sure if you're going to be able to get him to be a mentor, but we can figure it out." Jonathan is like, "No, don't worry about it. I'll get Craig Robbins to be his mentor." And then during that process, Craig showed him the ropes on what he needed to do for real estate. And then before you know it, Jonathan approaches Craig and says, "You know what? This is not for me." And Craig goes, "What do you want to do? What do you mean it's not for you?" He goes, "I'm gonna create video games." And he goes, "What?" He's like, "You pretty much got the advice like you can't compete against Xbox and PlayStation." And he was like, "I'm not gonna compete against Xbox or PlayStation. I'm gonna compete in a new world that is brand new, and I'm gonna be an innovator and a leader in that world, and it's called VR." So getting like a pair of Oculus Rifts put it on, and diving into virtual reality gaming. And that's exactly what he did with Axe Lab. And long story short, at first, he was looking for investors. Craig was one of his initial investors, if I'm not mistaken. And then Mayor Suarez here in the city of Miami connected Jonathan with several VCs in the Miami area. And then Jonathan, the networking kind of kid he is, not even kid, young adult now, um, was knocking on every door possible and making moves. And he raised several $1 million later on down the line to launch Axe Lab, the virtual reality gaming company as you know it today.
That is incredible. And like Jonathan, there's thousands. I mean,
Oh man.
thank you for inviting me, and our team to go to the gala this past spring. I
Hmm.
was just in awe. I was teary eyed and all choked up, with the entire program at the gala. And just to see this sea, it was like a sea of young CEOs,
Yes.
all supporting each other, all giving each other props, all of them just very encouraging. And then of all ages, too, right? Because also Nifty alumni was there,
Yes.
too,
Our
to
founders.
support.
Yeah. Many of our
Yes,
founders were there.
it's incredible. And to then also reinvest, right? So they're
Yeah.
very engaged. They become mentors. They provide counsel, thought leadership, insight, open up doors. It was just really, I don't even, it was breathtaking, right? To experience that and feel that energy, just all good energy in that space.
And,
And it was massive too. I mean, again, it was like, I don't think I've been to very few galas in my life, and I've been to plenty where it was epic. I mean, there were thousands of people in this space. It was crazy.
and just to add on to that, we love our students, we love our teachers, but one of the key components is the supporters. If we don't have people like you and Team Urbander and everybody else that comes along with it, you know, there will be no Nifty because I come once again, Brooklyn, New York in my veins, and it takes a village to raise a child. And if you don't have that village to raise that student, it's going to be hard because we got to show these students examples and opportunities, not just from successful people, but people that actually look like them also, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes, we bring in a lot of individuals that may not look like our students, but one of the things that we do, we coach our volunteers to be able to understand what you're about to dive into, right? There's
Hmm.
a diverse plethora of situations that you might dive into. We have those schools that are self-sufficient, that are running, the curriculum is going. You see, I call it the organized chaos. And then you have schools that the kids are in the back of the class and like, get away from me. I don't want to deal with you right now. I just worked until 3 in the morning, took care of my little brother after school, and now I got to get back to
Hmm.
school. And now you want me to create a business? Get away from me. And
Right.
those are the students that we need to wrap our arms around. Those are the ones that need the most help and support. And those are the teachers that need our assistance. So we tell our volunteers, get ready to roll your sleeves up because it's not going to be a walk in the park. It's going to be a meaningful experience at the end of the tunnel. I promise you that.
Yeah, and another thing that I was very pleasantly surprised to witness is the women entrepreneurs, right? The young women entrepreneurs that are part of Nifty too. I want to say it was like 50-50, at least from what we experienced. What are those numbers? I mean, that was just from, from my perspective, but can you talk to me a little bit
Yeah.
about, right?
It,
About,
it fluctuates. It fluctuates, right? So
okay.
the year of the woman was many years here at the World of Nifty, right? So I shout out to all the female entrepreneurs out there, like hands down, you guys hold it down. And women are great presenters too. I mean, men are great, don't get me wrong, but women have this different approach about their presentations and how they do things when they presenting their business ideas, right? But ultimately, it's well balanced. I think in the world of Nifty, there's tons of female entrepreneurs and tons of males. I don't have ratio numbers as far as how many and how many, but that's a good question because now you're gonna make me go back to our marketing team and our data management team and say, hey, can I get a snapshot of how many females versus males in the Nifty program at a global level and see if we have that data because that's a good story to tell actually.
Oh, I mean, well, again, me as an outsider coming in, I got to tell you that I feel it's neck and neck. I feel like it's pretty balanced.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm bringing it up. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. That could be part of the story too, because I feel like empowerment for anybody, for human beings,
Yes.
just in general is important. But the underrepresentation, right, of girls and women in certain sectors is very evident, in the data. And so it was, again, very inspiring to see so many young entrepreneurs that identify as female participating in the pitch competition and at the gala, and it was just awesome. And so you mentioned about your global impact, right? And so I know that, as you mentioned before, decades ago it started as a small organization, and slowly but surely it's expanded nationally. And so what does that presence at a national level and internationally look like today, and what is the vision moving forward?
So, I mean, we are a global organization. Like I mentioned before, we have places like Israel, Philippines, Ireland, and the list continues. And that the global side of the house is ran by Stephanie Alvarado. She's the program director for our global initiatives, and she's constantly growing our global platform as we speak. If I'm not mistaken, JD, our CEO, is on his way right now as we speak to China um, to go have conversations out there and we are spreading that entrepreneurial virus at a global level, not just a national level. And we are scattered through many states, from California to Texas to New York to Virginia to Massachusetts. I mean, the list continues. We have several locations across the states that we run programming out of, and on a yearly basis, we serve a little more than 60,000 students amongst our organization. And just here locally in the Southeast region, we serve about 25,000 students this year. Last year, we reached just about 23 with thousand students with about 450 teachers. This year's goal is to reach 25,000 students with a little over 450 teachers. And the way that happens is through the dedication and commitment from major school districts that do see a genuine need in entrepreneurship education to be instilled in many classrooms, not just the standalone business courses, but the culinary arts class, cosmetology, web design, video production, and the list continues.
Yes, because all of those are sources for, businesses. Really, all are services that can convert themselves. If you go into the workplace, that's okay too. But those are skills that can also lend themselves for establishing a business. And I guess that's the future now too, right? We're seeing this now in the aftermath of the pandemic, that a lot of skilled professionals are now exploring entrepreneurship, and to be able to instill this notion that entrepreneurship is an avenue, right? For uh, really creating your own path, and how do you say, exercising that freedom also, and that liberty, right? That comes with being able to call your own shots and work on the projects that you want to work on is a wonderful thing. How do you fund Nifty? And just wanted to, provide some insight as to the kind of support that you seek and that you need to be able to accomplish these goals that you're setting for the organization.
Well, I mean, I was trying to win the Mega Ball the other day and just to fund Nifty for the next several years, but it didn't happen, right? My Kevin Hart voice, it didn't happen in that way. But ultimately, how we get funds for programming is through corporate dollars, sponsors, individual donors, and local federal dollars, like the children's trust, for instance, right? So the Children's Services Council has dollars that they give out in several regional areas, and we get support from the Children's Services Council from the Children's Trust in Miami, Primetime in West Palm Beach, and several other funders along the way. But ultimately, Nifty has ultimately been supported by corporations for several years. I think it was the Southeast region and maybe a few other areas in the Nifty world that explored the opportunity with federal funds, and where it's a little more strict when you get those dollars. But
Yeah.
ultimately, Nifty has been sponsored by people like EY, MasterCard, SAP, PayPal, Citi, um, Everbank, which is formerly known as TIA Bank.
Mhm.
I mean, the list continues. A lot of corporate dollars to support the initiatives in our schools and on the ground with Nifty programming.
And how can people volunteer?
Oh man, go to nifty.com, and you can just Google volunteer engagement opportunities in Nifty, NFTE, or you can just go to nifty.com and go to volunteer engagement opportunities section, and you can find ways to volunteer at any city near you or country near you even, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
we all program offices, and including Stephanie, we include different volunteer engagement opportunities. A lot of them are virtual based. So
Mm.
you can be in California and mentor and coach a student in Miami, ultimately, right? Or vice versa. But we have physical and virtual experiences throughout the year starting in September. And for all the audience out there, Nifty wants to give back to you guys. If you have children or family members between the ages of 11 to 24, the World Series of Innovation is starting in September to December, where it's around UN sustainable goals. And we get
Mhm.
sponsors to adopt a UN sustainable goal and create a challenge around it. Big shout out to EY. I'm looking forward because it's around AI, and AI is near and dear to my heart, and I think their challenge is gonna blow a lot of people away. And there's monetary awards to be won in each one of those categories. So a specific group of students or a student or individual can participate in as one to, I think it's going to be a total of six categories. We have 6 to 8 categories this year that you have to choose from. So it shouldn't take you that long to submit for one, and you can submit into every category if you wanted to see, where your luck is at. But we have people from all over the world participate in this, and it's online and it's free, and we want to invite all of you to participate and take advantage of it. And it helps build your whole entrepreneurial journey, because now you're creating a business idea and concept around something that's going to help people at a global level.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really great. And this is just access, right? Access to opportunities that otherwise youth would not, be available to tap into. And so I think this is wonderful, Chris. I thank you so much for making time to have this conversation that I think is so important. There's talks about how, the future of America is a working class of CEOs, and I just feel that Nifty is playing a huge, huge role in really equipping, people with the know-how on how to do that, right? And even at work, right? Working in a company, just very much about working independently and with this entrepreneurial mindset, to really break free from, following the structure all the time and always pushing for innovation, for, calculated risk taking, for, proof of concept, for all of these things that sometimes there just wasn't any wiggle room, right?
Absolutely.
In a structured work environment. But I think that that even corporate America is warming up to this kind of mindset. And so, what are your thoughts about that in closing?
I mean, we kick off the school year around the EMI, the entrepreneurial mindset, right? So like
Mm,
we have an assessment that we provide students and teachers with, where I call it their superhero strengths that they identify. And I learned this from one of my coworkers, Daniel Williams, because it's not about your strengths or weaknesses, right? It's about what your superhero powers are. So when the kids take the EMI, it's also attached to a lesson that the teachers can bring back in right after assessment is complete. It talks about what your strengths and weaknesses are, right, as we know them, and whether it's comfort with risk, and many other areas of the EMI, but it also brings back into an example of what celebrity feature that you resemble, right? So when I did mine's came back as Jay-Z, and I was like, I'll take it. I said, all right, I said my EMI, I have Jay-Z qualities in me, I'll take it, right? The guy's a genius, right? Especially being out of Brooklyn, New York. Shout out to Jay-Z. But definitely, the EMI is something that we start the school year off with and we end the school year off with. So the students and teachers can see how that transition of the mindset changed from beginning a program to the very end. I think mindset is what everything is about. No matter what we do at life, I don't care if you're a chef, a web designer, you got to create a mindset. And in my mindset, for instance, I'm about innovation, which it could be part of the next conversation, but we just recently created the nifty metaverse space. And that's about your mindset switching gears for what the 5 years of the future holds, not right now. You got to think ahead of your competitors, ahead of the game, and what's next out there. And something we dibbled and dabbled into was the nifty metaverse space. Shout out to that urbander group. I see you out there, just saying. And this is what we do. We try to be innovative and be pioneers at everything that we do in this world. And if it's not something that we need to invent, I'm all about, if you're gonna copy a cat, copy the right cat, right? That's my whole new thing. My wife told me that one morning and it stuck. She says, there's nothing wrong with being a copycat, but you got to make sure you're copying the right cat. And if you're in the entrepreneurial world and you want to copy a cat, Nifty is the right cat to copy.
Bam, that's it. This is a wrap. Thank you, Chris. I love you, man. It's so great to have this conversation with you.
You got to get the Nifty bomb before I go, though. Hold on. Here he goes.
Okay.
And that's why I'm Nifty. Did you hear that? And that's why I'm Nifty.
Thank you for that. Now I feel part of the family.
You've always been part of the family, no matter what job I transition into or become part of. So this is my last stop, by the way. After Nifty, I'm just going to be an entrepreneur for the rest of my life, as I am already with my wife. But after Nifty, that's where my next stop is, this working for myself forever. That's it.
You see, we all got the bug, man. What can I tell you, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Chris. And I'll be talking to you soon, okay? Thanks for tuning in to this episode of I Have Something to Say, where subject matter experts are unafraid and unapologetic about sharing their perspectives regarding issues that impact our lives. They speak up because basically they give a shit. So if you're tired of canned answers and want to finally hear real people cut through the BS and talk about real issues, this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Sami Jimen Marrero from Urbander, and behind our mixer is our producer, Chris Brignolle from UdoU.